All right, so I started tinkering with the micros again. I have a few micros scattered, okay? But this one was essentially brand new. Had it out of the box, hadn't even run a full battery through it. Just kind of put it on the shelf. And I decided to start tinkering with it a little bit. So I've spent some time over the last couple of days adding parts that I had. I had bought a bunch of parts for this thing when I bought it, and then they were just sitting there. So I was like, let me put these parts on and just kind of see how it goes. So I had an idea with this. So before I started tinkering with it, I had done a bunch of research on the gear ratios, what was available for underdrive, overdrive, what the transmission setup was like. And I decided that I was like, I want to put a TRX4M transmission in. Now, when I bought this, there wasn't many gear ratio options for the stock transmission. So I was like, I'm gonna buy this. So I bought this transmission. It had the 40-to-1 crawler gears in it from Endura, and then the purple motor, obviously. The 40-to-1 was a little bit lower gearing than I wanted. So the stock gear ratio in the Ascent, the OG first generation Ascent, was 13-to-1. The stock gear ratio in a TRX4M transmission is 16 or 16.6-to-1. And then Endura has a 24.4 and a 40.3-to-1 gear ratio set up for this. So I got this thing, and then I ended up putting the 24.4-to-1 crawl gears in it, okay? Tested it. It was awesome. You get a lot more low-speed control out of a simple brush system. I really like that, okay? So I did that, and then I went and let me back up. I did that, and in order to put this in, I had to use an adapter. So it's this Opie factory 3D printed swap skid. And besides it fitting up perfectly, it also gives you a lot more belly clearance. So the factory skid, it hung down a little bit. So now you have a little more belly clearance, which is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Highly recommend. That's nice. It came with this little battery tray here, so you get the battery down a little bit lower versus being up at that angle. So that's awesome. And then I was going through and I was looking at stuff, and I was like, well, what do I have? What else do I have? So I have some gears, overdrive, underdrive gears, portal gears, differential gears that I had bought. I had bought this servo, this Torque MLS 1025. Threw that on. Seems pretty good. It's got an integrated mount. And then I had some better linkage here for the steering, threw that on. So things are pretty snappy. I like it. I will tell you, when I put this motor on, I did have to cut and solder for the other connection, because the connection for the TRX4M is like a 2-pin, like not JST, but like a receiver plug almost, okay? When I did the skid, I swapped some links around. I did have part of a link set for an Ascent, so I put these on here for the fronts. The rears, I ended up melting and bending for a little bit of high clearance. I realized the drive shaft hangs down, but it does give me a little more belly clearance, which is cool. And then for overdrive, underdrive, what I ended up doing is I did all the math, and I ended up leaving the stock ring and pinion and stock portal gears in the front, and I only did underdrive, ring and pinion in the rear. So it gives you, roughly, with that transmission and those gear ratios, 80-to-1 in the front and 100-to-1 in the rear. So it's like 20 couple percent, right, difference. So plenty without being extreme. I'm pretty happy with that. Currently, it's still running the factory ESC setup. They say 2S. I threw 3S on there. It seems fine with 3S, but it's noisy, right? It's got that whine right there. Not a fan. So I do have a plan for that. I think I'm going to put a different ESC in and a different radio system. But overall, this thing's been pretty cool. I haven't touched the shocks. I did move the stock mounting positions to the further in holes, but I think I'm actually going to use some different mounts. My brother's 3D printing me some mounts, but I actually have these little pieces of carbon, a bunch of these that are pretty thin, and I'm thinking maybe putting them here and maybe moving the shock mounts. The reason I want to move the shocks, although it works fine, I think it's hideous, okay? I think that this truck should be you know, 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch lower at all times. I'm not, honestly, I think like static, it should sit there. That looks good. It's not great for clearance, but, you know. So I would like to do something there. I would like to lower it a little bit. I don't know if I'll keep this steering link on there because it's got that square side. I may take my Dremel and grind that edge off because it hits things when you really get into it. But overall, I've been pretty happy with this. I know the first generation Ascent18 doesn't have the best steering. That's been essentially untouched. You know, now they have that high steer option, which I could get a high steer front axle and put it in there. I don't really know if I need to. It's not a competition truck. I mean, if I get froggy, I might do it. I'm going to try to keep the stock chassis and modify it best I can. But yeah, overall, it's just been a fun truck so far. The sliders are Endura. The sliders here are Endura sliders. So you get rid of the 2-piece and you go to the 1-piece. They're pretty nice. The tires are the Pro Line TSLs. I really like them. SSD wheels with heavy brass rings. And then these are just regular, the stock foams. And in the fronts, I put a tuning ring on the outside just to keep the sidewall from folding over. So if you look at it, it's soft here and it's firm here. So it tends to do pretty good. I might modify the tires, cut some sipes in them and stuff like that. But it's a good size tire. Fits this truck well without cutting the body up a bunch. So anyhow, enough talking. I'm going to put this back together. We're going to play on my little rock pile here. And then I'll probably adjust that rock pile and we'll do a couple other configurations because there's snow outside and I'm not going out there. So yeah, let's play with this truck a little bit. I'm not the best at one-handed driving. There's a little bit of the slow crawl with still a brush motor and just some gearing. So that's pretty good as far as the slow speed control. I'm considering that Hobby Wing Mini 24 because you can do brushed or brushless. And then it's, you know, you can tune it. You can get that thing to do 8.4 volts and it has like a 2 or 3 amp BEC. Let's see if we can get this thing to. So you see there right away. Yeah, the skid, the links are not the best, but I would be rubbing, and that skid would be all up in it if it was the stock one. So let's see if we can get. Look at that. Come on. I mean, I'm rubbing now, but there you go. My luck, I'm going to video this rock falling off and smashing my toes. That would be great. I'm really a fan of these tires. I think they're way underused. But that being said, I have other tires on the way because I like tires. Just an impressive little truck. I'll be honest, I was not pumped about this truck when I first tried it. It was fine. It just felt fine, just fine. So, pretty excited how well it's doing with a couple very, very simple modifications. As far as 3S, it's not a speed demon, but it's not bad. You had to give the beans. It's got some wheel speed, but it's got good slow crawl and it's got decent overdrive without being too much. I do think there's a such thing as too much overdrive. But this seems pretty good. See if I can get this driver's side up on here to give me a little more clearance. Yeah, look at that. Right there. I'd be all up in the skid and the links. So, a little bit of improvements in breakover. Really go a long way. It's pretty smooth for being brushed. Being a stock ESC at that. Alright, let's try this. Definitely not for the 10th time or anything. It's a new stack. We're going to see. Pretty impressive, seriously. So I got 2 lines here. I think I got this one, and I think I can come around and come up. So we'll try this first and see. I have not actually tried this yet. See how it does. Yeah, gravy. Initially, I thought about making this a build series, but this truck is not current. So there's tons of videos right now. I mean, since this came out, they released the Scout, and then they released the Apex, neither of which I have. But I don't know. I think there's still something to be learned, some information out there to be given to people that want to tinker with these trucks. I feel like this one's getting cheaper, or it's at least not really increasing in price much, so still a pretty good value. Look at that. Man, those tires, I'm telling you. Oh, I say it, it slips off. Either way, I think it's a pretty capable truck. Really wish I had that high steer axle. I don't know. My thing with the high steer axle is the design is so different. Like, it doesn't have all this low-hanging fruit. It's not just simply the angle, but it just doesn't have all that, which I think is really awesome. So, let's see. Come on, you can get this. This is not hard. I am definitely not used to driving one-handed. It's not my thing. Not a one-handed driver on the regular. Come on. Gotta get that tire to stop getting in that little crevice there. Ah! Again. All right, I'm gonna come way over now. Just wants to push. Reverse. Overall, I think Red Cat did a killer job on this thing, truly. I don't even mind the body. I actually use their 10 scale body on a class 1 I have, because the approach and departure angles, how close those wheel wells are pretty awesome. I do have some other parts. I don't know if I'm going to put them on there. One was this little headache rack thing. I don't really know if that's my flavor or not. And then I do have a bumper as well with a little skid. I'm not sure if I'll use it. We'll see. I am enjoying just tinkering and just putting around with it, though. Let's see if I can get this line again. If I come this way, it might not hang as much. There you go. We can wrap it around a little bit. Right into that rock. I got to get my tire in there. There you go. It's pretty predictable. It seems like it sits really high up, but yet it doesn't want to flop very often. And like I said, I don't even have, besides the brass rings that come in these SSD wheels, there's no extra weight on this thing. I didn't even move the speed control yet. Like, it's still in stock-ish configuration. So that's pretty cool. I think I get those brass portals on there, That'll be good without being overkill. I actually wonder what this thing weighs right now as it sits. Little tiny 3S battery pack. So we're set on grams. 537. So it's not light, but it's not super heavy. It does have metal drive shafts. Has those brass wheels, or brass rings in the aluminum wheels. But I guess the transmission case is aluminum. So there's some weight there for sure. Oh, too far over. I think that right there, that area is what's going to keep me. So when I was doing this before, I don't come that far over. Generally, you go like this. I've been trying to hit the line where you go up that little ridge on the passenger front. Climb it like that. And then once you hit there, it just pushes that tire right over. And you either climb this way or it just turns you completely at an angle. Let's see what happens when we go way too far right. 3-wheel drive. Those tires do it. Those little Pro lines, they really do it. Pretty cool. Anyhow, that's all. I didn't want to do anything crazy here. Just some playing around, showing you this truck, showing you what's possible if you try to think outside the box and just do some basic math. You can really take advantage of gearing versus having to have a super slow motor. I realize brushless is awesome. I mean, brushless. Brushless. They're all brushless. And brushless. And brushless. So I get it. But yeah, super fun truck. I plan on doing very similar build out to an SX24. Once again, nothing new, but you know, just interesting, fun for me. If you enjoy it, thanks, appreciate it. See ya.